1, 2, 3.
It's a long way to Tipperary. It's a long way to go. It's a long way to Tipperary, to the sweetest girl I know. Goodbye, Piccadilly. Farewell, Leicester Square. It's a long, long way to Tipperary, but my heart's right there.
When Johnny comes marching home again,
Hurrah, hurrah,
we'll give him a hearty welcome then.
hurrah, hurrah.
The men will cheer, the boys will shout, the ladies they will all turn out, and we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home.
When Johnny comes marching home again,
Hurrah, hurrah,
we'll give him a hearty welcome then.
hurrah, hurrah. The men will cheer, the boys will shout, the ladies they will all turn out, and we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home.
2.
You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true neath the red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or brag. But should old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on the grand old flag.
Well, that was something, Maureen.
That was great.
Yeah, welcome
Thank you.
to the latest episode of Now We're Here, live from the American Legion Post 3 in Gloucester, Massachusetts, for a special episode circling around Veterans Day and veterans activities going on throughout this weekend. I am Corey Cooper, once again with my co-host Maureen Elwood. How are you, Maureen?
Great. It's a great day. We're
Yeah,
thrilled to be
yeah.
here at the American Legion. Post 3 named after Captain Lester Wass. And we're going to have Mark Nestor on a little bit later to talk about that, and also the American Legion. It's a historic year for them. They just turned 100 years old. And there's several American Legions across Cape Ann. We'll be going over all the events for Veterans Day, which is on Monday, November 11th.
That's right. So we have a great array of guests lined up for you today, touching on all the things happening this weekend. First, we want to bring on Adam Kukuru.
Yep,
right?
Adam Kukuru, who's the Director of Veteran Services for Cape Ann.
What's up, guys? How are you?
Great to see you, Adam. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you.
Yeah, and you cannot accuse us of nepotism for this one.
That's right, the Kukuroos.
Right.
The Kukuroos have the stage.
Yeah. But, yeah.
So, Adam, you're the Director of Cape Ann Veteran Services for Cape Ann, and you're based in Gloucester. So you run the program that's out of Emerson Street.
Correct.
Right, Emerson Avenue,
Emerson
sorry.
Avenue, correct.
Sorry. There are so many needs on Cape Ann for veterans right now, and that's across Cape Ann with the exception of Essex and Ipswich, which share services there.
Correct.
What was that conversation like when you were looking at regionalizing the services?
So we were looking at how best to serve all three of our communities, what we could do combined to share resources, to share communities, and what we could do to better serve our veterans and our community as a whole. So what we looked at is Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 115, states that every community with over 12,000 people has to have a full-time veterans director. Now, communities that are below that can get away with a half or part-time. So for our adjacent neighbors, Rockport, Manchester, they were able to fill it with a quarter-time or a part-time individual. Now, that worked for a while. We have an aging population here on Cape Ann. The needs of our veterans have become greater. We've come to learn that there are additional needs in our community, and we really sat here and thought, we need to think about doing things together. And togetherness has always been our approach. We know it's the mayor's approach to do things as much as possible together as a community, and it just was the right idea at the time to bring in our fellow cities or our fellow towns into a group or a district that we could now provide the same level of care to our Gloucester veterans and community, but also provide those services to Manchester and Rockport as well.
Very nice.
That's really great. So what are the most important services that Cape Ann veterans need right now?
Right now, across the board, financial hardship is difficult. As I said before, we have an aging population here. So we're looking at needs of housing. Housing's huge. Senior housing, people getting older, they want to move into something smaller, something more manageable. We don't have the housing availability. Financial hardships, medical costs. There's a lot out there that are affecting our veterans and their families as far as financial assistance. That's really, and that becomes the bedrock of our office. Why this office was founded was the issuance of Massachusetts General Law Chapter 115 benefits. And that's an income-based program that's available to those that are unemployed, those on Social Security, or those on Social Security disability. And what it can do is provide some kind of monetary assistance to assist them in ensuring that they're able to not have to choose between food and prescriptions or food and paying their rent, that they are covered and that they have those necessities that they've earned and they deserve.
Mm-hmm. So I know that healthcare is one of the largest issues, and I wanted to ask you some questions about mental health services, particularly here on Cape Ann. What are some of the services that are available to veterans with mental health issues or post-traumatic stress? Or
So we worked with the VA in 2015 with creating a new clinic on Main Street. It was originally at Addison Gilbert Hospital. With the development of this new clinic, they were able to add more space, more room, provide more services directly to our veterans. Two of the mental health services that they can provide are provided by the Lowell Vet Center, which treat veterans from either combat, military sexual trauma, or bereavement counseling. Those are the focuses of the Lowell Vet Center. They also have Team Foxtrot there that can provide social services and counseling for veterans of all other categories that need those services. They have a safe, comfortable environment that is available to the veterans and their families to seek those mental health needs there.
Mm-hmm. And this is in Gloucester.
And this is in
at
Gloucester.
Main Street in Gloucester.
Correct. What we were looking at before, we've had a long relationship with the Lowell Vet Center and Team Foxtrot, where they utilized our office space. We have a small office in the back that we can use as a satellite location for a lot of these services that were restrictively at the VA hubs, such as Bedford or Boston, which when you need these services, you can't be traveling into Boston, Bedford. It's asking a lot for individuals, and a lot of people that need the attention aren't going to be willing to travel or be able to physically or mentally travel to these locations. So we were able to cover that until the VA was able to open this new clinic and provide those services there.
That's great. So one of the largest groups on Cape Ann is Vietnam veterans, and I'm wondering how you engage them right now. Sure. And what are their needs any different than other veterans?
Absolutely. Our Vietnam veterans population is our largest population right now on Cape Ann. They are also the one with the most diverse needs on Cape Ann. We've really been out, and this is even started before I was here, where Gloucester was out really looking to find its Vietnam veterans, because unfortunately they came home to a difficult situation. The country was deeply divided in what was going on, and we as a nation didn't understand how to separate our need to support our military, but also oppose the war. And we were very fortunate, my generation was fortunate, to have our Vietnam veterans out there to teach that difference, that you can be against these conflicts, but you need to support the men and women that are going to fight. Our Vietnam veteran population now is in an aging group. Their needs are probably the most diverse. A lot of them, unfortunately, are feeling the full effects of exposure to things such as Agent Orange. They are also at a point in life where many of them are empty nesters. Their children are all grown up and moving out. Some of them, unfortunately, are starting to lose their spouses. This brings up a whole array of new mental health needs that, again, kind of been quelled for a while they were working in the working class, and now they're hitting post-retirement. Post-retirement brings on its own set of conflicts where they are, really having that time to rekindle and rethink some of these concerns that should have been addressed before, but just never were. In the Vietnam veteran population has a difficulty in really forgiving or really trying to overcome what had happened to them when they returned home. So we've really been out pounding the pavement, and like I said before, even before I was here, to go out there. I know the American Legion hosted dinner for Vietnam veterans in, I think, 2013. Then we had the wall come in 2015.
Right.
And then in 2017, we did the 50th anniversary pinning, and we had over 400 Vietnam veterans at the Manchester American Legion for a breakfast and get together. And we had Vietnam veterans that hadn't seen each other since boot camp, and two hadn't seen each other since they were in Vietnam. So we're trying to rekindle these relationships, break down those barriers, hope to prevent isolationism in the community, get them out, get them involved, get them comprehending that we understand what happened. We apologize deeply for what happened, but the culture of the country and of our community isn't like that anymore. We're here to welcome you home. We want to thank you, and we want to get you those services that you've earned and you deserve. And a lot of those needs are physical. A lot of those needs are mental. There are housing concerns. There's a lot out there in dealing with not only their needs, but they're in the group now that they're also taking care of their parents as well, who a lot of them are veterans. So they're learning not only for themselves, but to care for an elderly parent and the needs that are out there for them.
Yeah, and all of my relatives who have served, especially during the Vietnam era, they've been part of these support groups for a long time now. But I remember growing up, it's almost like that didn't exist. They were really bottled up, troubled, and just having that support and be able to reach out to the men and women that they were battling with back then, and share those stories and those experiences together has been a huge help.
Yeah, that sounds like some of the things that you're offering. Adam, I wanted to talk about your service.
Okay.
Tell us about your experience. You're a veteran, and
Sure.
yeah.
So I was fortunate. I had two great, both my grandfathers, they were great people. My great-grandfathers both served in the military. They were kind of really the example for me. One was in the Marine Corps, the other one was in the Navy. Growing up, really respected and admired them. And one of the things I can always remember is at my grandfather's house, he had a picture of his Navy vessel on the wall. And it just, every time I went upstairs, I saw it. It just stuck with me. The Marine Corps was my calling. The Marine Corps has obviously the motto of the few, the proud. It's something that's always stuck with me. So that's kind of the direction why I chose the Marine Corps. I went in the Marine Corps 2006. I did 4 years. I did a tour in Iraq and did a tour in Afghanistan, and then I returned home to Gloucester.
And so when you came out of that experience and your cohort of fellow veterans from the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, what were some of the things that you find in this group of veterans?
So
Because the
our
wars are still going on,
Sure.
and so these folks are cycling in and out of being deployed. And what do you
So for
find?
our active duty, they're doing a lot of, like you had mentioned, a lot of multiple deployments. There's going to be concerns at some point on mental health and the stressors that are caused from multiple events that cause traumatic stress. And they're definitely going to be dealing with that down the road. As far as for our returning Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, they're younger, they're young families. They're looking to find their groove and their niche here in our communities. They're looking for housing, they're looking for education, they're looking for getting back to school, finding work, and finding their community. One of the things that I think that I regretted when I got out was I kind of had this notion that Cape Ann wasn't very military friendly. I felt kind of isolated, alone.
Interesting.
And the thing was, is that just community didn't know how to approach. Do I thank them? Do I not thank them? Do I approach them? Do I ask them? Well, there was no really criteria. There was no outlet for people to get involved. And that's been really a critical component from our office and all the people that volunteer. It's just making that connection. Because I couldn't have been more wrong about Gloucester and Cape Ann as a whole. Our communities are very military friendly and very veteran friendly. They just didn't know, they weren't asked, and they weren't being pointed in the directions on what to do to serve our military. And it's been amazing, the support from our businesses and from our community to come out and support our young veterans and our veterans as a whole. What can we do to send? What does our military need? What can we do? Can we do fundraisers? Can we do concerts? Can we do this stuff to support our military and show our support? And it's been an incredible experience. And it's reiterating that to the young populations that, listen, you may be going through this. You may feel alone. You may feel isolated. But you're not going to be. You need to find the connection. You need to. We have those connections that you need to make, and we will get you on the right path.
It's an interesting point because you can see how people who don't serve would be sheepish or shy or would not know how to approach a veteran, either in active service or who would serve beforehand. And I guess it's kind of cool. So you think it's sort of community programs and outreach, like how do you end up making that connection between those who are serving and those who
Yeah, and also
who don't?
I'd like to add this. What do you say, for someone who doesn't have someone in the active military?
I would say go up and if you want to speak to a veteran, thank them. Especially, again, that Vietnam generation that wasn't thanked when they were coming home. Let them know, thank you for your service. Let them know, finally, welcome home. And that we appreciate it. And the culture of the nation has changed. To our young veterans, let them know, hey, pat them on the back. Thank you for your service. Our veterans as well. It's just really just a warm and welcoming community approach that we all have.
It's really cool because I just think every time my friends and I were out, you see someone with the hat on or whatever, it's always thank you for your service or madam, or if you're at the gas station, the grocery store, wherever, or of course buying drinks. Not adverse to that every now and then too. So just a lot to learn from one another.
We've been lucky in the last couple of years. We started, I think you'll have a guest on later that can get more in detail on it, but the Welcome Home event.
Yeah, we'd love to get into
and
that too.
That's the way that we can really begin ensuring that we don't do this again, where veterans do feel welcome by our businesses and our community, and I'll let that guest get more into detail on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what if you have a family member who's just returned or someone from the Vietnam era, and they're showing signs of, maybe isolation or depression, or they're having a health problem, and how do they get involved with you? When is the right time to come and see you?
So when you're having a veteran or you're a veteran or you're a family member of a veteran, the time to start looking at these resources is now. Don't wait until you really desperately need something. Like most federal programs, they take a while to kick in. It's not immediate. Some of the services may not be immediate. So start those processes now. Get in touch with our office. Let us know what your needs may be, or what you're even thinking your future needs may be. And this goes the same for children of veterans, or family members of veterans. If you have a veteran that you're concerned about and you want to know about services that may be out there, give us a call. Let us know what you think their needs may be. Is it financial? Hey, my dad's going to be retiring soon, and he's going to be on Social Security, and his prescriptions are high. Are there things out there? Is he eligible for VA? Let's find out. We'll send you down to the clinic. We'll on a Tuesday when they have enrollment, you enroll, and they'll get that process started. You may be eligible, but you may have a copay. So let's look at that. One of the things we can look at is VA compensation. It's a monetary benefit that's paid to veterans for injuries that were occurred or aggravated during times of service. Can we get you service connected for the condition that you're suffering from? Let's say, for instance, an easy one is hearing loss. Were you a boiler mechanic in the Navy? Yeah, okay, well, some of your hearing may be attributed to that service. So maybe now you have no cost or expense for hearing aids and you get into the VA service. Let's deal with these concerns now before they become a desperate need. So the time to really reach out to our office is right now. Reach out now and find out what's out there. If you have a veteran isolating themselves, we have a networking group every Friday morning. It meets from 8 to 10. And it's just a group of veterans that have been there, all walks of life, from World War II all the way down to current veterans. And it's just a simple drop-in chat and have a cup of coffee. You have a question, that's the perfect place to start.
So those are every Friday from 8 to 10
Correct.
at the Cape Ann Veterans Services Center on Emerson Ave.
Correct.
And that's right near the open door, right?
It is, right?
Yeah.
We're very
Almost
fortunate.
next door neighbors, yeah.
Yeah.
Very,
Basically.
very fortunate to have a great little community down there
Nice
with
neighborhood.
with PACE and with
Pathways.
Pathways and
Pathways.
Open Door.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's such a great area. You're doing so much great work. And I think that that's it's just vital. And the last thing I wanted to ask you about is the transportation issue. We know that veterans from Cape Ann, that trip down to the VA to Jamaica, and that's in Jamaica Plain, and there's an office in Bedford, Mass. That's a lot. It takes a lot of coordination. And you've been working with Congressman Moulton's office on some of these transportation issues. Could you just speak to that?
Sure. We were fortunate when we opened the clinic to work with the VA to get a shuttle that was run by volunteers. It's difficult to get people to volunteer to drive to Boston. I know personally I don't want to drive into Boston for myself, let alone as a volunteer all the time.
Beverly's hard enough these days.
Yeah, it's getting
And
worse.
the train is really, taking the commuter rail all the way down, then trying to get on the Orange Line or the Green Line, and all the way out to JP. That's a trip. I've done that. I've done that with my dad.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to ask people for. It's a lot to ask our veterans. It's too much to ask our veterans for.
Yeah.
We're fortunate to have a shuttle to Bedford, and that leaves the clinic every day. And they could take a shuttle there to get to Jamaica Plains, but again, that's asking for a lot. VA is not always the best option for our veterans. We're fortunate to live in Massachusetts, where there's so many more options out there. So when someone comes in, hey, I was a veteran, I need services, well, let's look at what else is out there. The VA is a wonderful option. Our veterans love the VA. At least our Bedford and Jamaica Plains, they are doing great work to take care of veterans. But if you have a veteran that is in their 80s or 90s, asking them to travel to Bedford or Jamaica Plains is too much. It's too much to ask. And we have other services. We have a great Shine Counselor office at Addison Gilbert Hospital that can look for other resources that are on par, if not better, than the VA for those specific cases. So again, when those individuals come down to talk to our office, these are things we're going to bring up. Can we sit you down with Shine as well? We'll get you enrolled in VA, but let's also send you to Shine. Because maybe instead of going to Jamaica Plains or Bedford, maybe we can get you over to Leahy Health and get those same services right here in our community. So it's a balancing act. Not everybody fits in a nice little peg. There's a whole variety of services out there. We live in a great community where there's a lot of people doing outreach and sending and sharing the message. And we're just there to help anybody we can continue to share that message of all those services.
That's great. How do people get in touch with you and get in touch with Cape Ann Veterans Services?
Sure, they can call our office. Our number is 978-281-9740. They can email us. They can visit either the Gloucester, Manchester, or Rockport website. They can swing by at any time. Best way is to leave a message, but you can also swing by and see if we're there. We are out a lot doing things in the community, so we're not always in the office, but you can always try that, and we'll certainly do our best to address you immediately. But best way is to set up an appointment so I can schedule that time to sit down and sit with you and answer all those questions.
And the time to act is now.
And the time to act is now.
Yeah, so you can qualify for all these benefits you might not even know you qualify for.
Right.
I just think about my dad and growing up, and he definitely qualified for a lot of benefits, but we didn't know.
Right,
And he only got help through the VA until much later in his life, which I think must be some, others have similar experiences too. So.
Yeah, it's frustrating. You see veterans going through difficult times and families struggling to find these resources, and it's frustrating knowing that had we been able to connect earlier, that we could alleviate some of that stress that both sides are feeling, and that we could make that veteran comfortable and meet those needs that they have earlier on. So I hope that message is relayed out there that time is now to come down and
Great.
see us.
Well, Adam Kukuru, thank you so much.
Thank you so
for
much for
joining
having
us.
me.
Thanks for your service. Thanks for your work, Cuz.
Yep,
All right.
great work,
Take care.
Adam. Adam Kukuru, the director of Cape Ann Veterans Services here on Cape Ann, located on Emerson Avenue in Gloucester.
He's great.
Great, really important information for our veterans on Cape Ann.
Yeah.
So we are going to go to a clip of an interview that I did with Seth Moulton this week, in which he talks about what he is doing for Veterans Day.
Well, I'm glad you brought it back here because it's a great note to end on. And I'm looking forward to the day, although Veterans Day is also tough for veterans because it brings back a lot of memories. And we think of our friends who didn't come home or our friends who are home but are struggling. Great American heroes who served this country, who literally risked their lives for this country. Many of them were hurt by the experience, either physically or mentally, been damaged in the process. But all doing well back here at home. And the least we should do as a country is take care of those who serve us, who literally keep us free. So Veterans Day is a time to listen, to reflect, to respect those who have served, but also think about how we can all serve our veterans when they come back home.
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. Our fathers, God, to thee, author of liberty, to thee we sing. Long may our land be bright with freedom's holy light. Protect us by thy might, great God, our King. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible sword. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. In the beauty of the lilies, Christ was born across the sea, with a glory in his bosom that transfigures you and me. As he died to make men holy, let us live to make men free, while God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
All right, the beautiful singing is brought to you by Share the Music. This is an ensemble of 23 or so singers from all around the area. We're lucky enough to have, I think, 7 with us today. And joining us is Wendy Betts and Alan McMillan of Share the Music. Beautiful job.
Just a beautiful job. Thank you so much
that
for
was
being on our
amazing.
show.
It's an honor.
Thank you so
I
much.
feel so patriotic. I loved these songs when I was a little girl. We sang them in school. I'm like singing along.
Keep singing them.
I know. Well, one of my favorite is America the Beautiful and My Country, Tears of Thee, which we might hear later on. But thanks for being here. How did you get this started? What brought you together?
Well, we've been around for a while, the Share the Music group, but we disbanded 2 years ago because we were all getting a bit older and we didn't know if we have enough energy to keep doing these performances we were doing for nonprofits. But when Mark said this is a 100-year anniversary for the American Legion, we said, we need to sing. And everybody said, yes, we will. And so we were back with intense rehearsals and ready to go.
And I think a number of us who sing in the group are veterans. I'm one of the newbies, thanks to Wendy. I wasn't part of the original group, but a number of us are veterans. Myself, I'm a veteran of the Vietnam War. There's several others who are as well. But I think the key part of all of this is what Wendy said, that as long as there is a need for music to hold our country together, we'll be there. And what an honor to honor all of our veterans. My grandfather was in the Army in World War I. My father and my mother were in the Army in World War II. They actually met on a troop ship going to North Africa in World War II.
Wow.
That's
And I
remarkable.
was in the Vietnam War. So it's a multi-generational thing because we care about our country. That's what it boils down to.
And music has been that ribbon
unifying.
all the way through. It is unifying. You know, think about World War I and the songs that came out of that. And
Tipperary.
yeah, Tipperary.
The
and
USO and
yeah, and the Old Lang Syne, We're Here Because We're Here, that was a song that was sung when the soldiers were marching. And there's just, music is kind of connected, right?
When we were all singing this, we said, let's go ahead and decorate our notebooks. Do you have one? Oh, you have a clean
oh,
one.
I can show. You know, Lenny, I can actually show on this camera if you
okay.
want.
It's a
Yeah,
little
go ahead. You can speak.
So that's my father and mother. She was Red Cross, and my father was in the Marines. So we've all decorated our folders to appreciate our genealogy and our people that have served.
That's great. So what are your favorite songs? Do you have a couple of favorites?
Oh, well, God bless America.
God bless America
I mean,
is, yeah, I think that hits us all. The Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Yes.
And I mean, all of the songs we sing. We will be singing a much more extensive program here on Sunday at 2 o'clock, and then on Monday at 2 o'clock at St. Paul's Church in Lanesville. And that program at St. Paul's in Lanesville is also a fundraiser to raise money for Company 2 Hero Dogs. Kate Van Auken was a 28-year veteran of the Army, and she is helping to raise dogs that wounded service members, combat members, can use to help them get through life.
That's wonderful.
It's a wonderful program, so I encourage people to come to that because it's a worthy cause.
Yeah.
and we have songs from the Civil War and the Revolution. We said, you know, we've had conflicts and we've had a lot of music to go along with the conflicts. But the Vietnam War, we did not know which songs were appropriate. So we had talked to Mark Nestor, and he said, well, they really like the 40s songs too because it helps them forget. But Leaving on a Jet Plane, and what were some of the others? Blowing in the Wind, protest songs.
Protest
Right,
songs.
right.
Green
Really?
Grass
So
of Home.
protest songs for Vietnam vets.
Yeah. The Vietnam War was a hard time
very
because the country was hugely divided at that time. And the music is a way of salving the wounds, and I don't mean the physical wounds, the spiritual wounds, because war is not a glamorous thing at all.
Absolutely not.
And all of us who served were acutely aware of that. So it's the music that was the glue that held us together. And even long after the wars are over, it's the music that salves our spirits.
True.
It makes us cry.
Yeah, it
We have
does.
trouble getting through these sometimes.
Right. I totally
So
understand.
blessed to see veterans around, still coming here and being part of this.
Yeah, and singing these songs, of course, is it's so important. And so your concert's coming up. Just to come back to that, there's one on Sunday
Yes.
here
Here.
at the American Legion
At 2 o'clock.
At 2 o'clock, and is
Open
it
to the public.
It's
Is it
open
free?
to the public.
Open to
It's
the
a
public,
free.
yes.
It's a free event. That's great to be able to see you sing your whole with all of you and.
But it's
your
not
whole
just
set.
us. We want everybody who's in the audience to be singing.
Oh,
Anytime they feel like it, they
great.
should be singing.
Maureen.
Maureen.
And we'll have a larger group for both Sunday and Monday. This is just a small representation
Yes.
of the group.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
so
so
they're
happy you
25
participated in this. I mean, it makes the show.
Yeah,
We
and
really
on
appreciate it.
Veterans Day, you'll be at
Right
St.
here.
You'll be
St.
here.
Paul.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
no,
Monday-
no,
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 St.
Monday,
Paul.
Here's
Right.
Sunday,
Monday is-
for the holiday.
Monday-
The
At
actual
St. Paul's
Veterans Day
Lutheran.
will be at St. Paul's. in
Lutheran
Lanesville.
Church.
It's 1123 Washington Street.
Great, and that doors open at what, 1:30 for that?
1:30,
And that's that
yes.
that nice fundraiser for the dogs.
Service dogs,
Well,
yeah.
thank you so much. We'll hear from you later.
Yes.
Thank you for having
Alan
us.
McMillian and Wendy Betts, thanks for being on, and all of the singers from Share the Music. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
Thank you. So, thank you so
Thanks.
much. So we also want to point out too that Now We're Here just keeps going on and on and on. We're going to be at the Open Door for a special Thanksgiving episode on Friday, November 22nd. And then we're going to be at Cape Ann Animal Aid, Tuesday, December 3rd, and that'll be about all things about our four-legged friends.
I mean, dogs, puppies, and kittens.
Fur babies,
everybody,
yeah,
yeah,
that'll be
yeah,
that,
fur
so
babies.
get
Now
in
that's
there.
going to be a fun show.
And we have confirmed that we will actually be doing a December holiday show at the Beauport Hotel. And that date is to be announced shortly, but we confirmed that yesterday afternoon. So
And
very
we've
exciting
got
stuff.
great shows coming up and also into the new year. So we don't know where those are going to be yet, but you'll be able to see us around Cape Ann.
Do you want us? Do you want us in your home? We can do that for you.
We love doing this show for you, and we hope that you're loving it too. We have another special guest
We do.
On tap, Mark Nestor. He is also a veteran, and thanks so much for having us in your home, the American Legion.
Mark
Post
literally
3.
unlocked the door for us to get in here today. So.
I know.
Where do you get the rent bill?
Mark Nestor is an attorney here in town as well. Mark, welcome to Now We're Here.
Thank you. Good morning. Glad to be here.
Thanks for coming. What does the American Legion here in Gloucester mean to you?
What it means to me is we have a veterans organization that takes care of its veterans, which is especially telling because of all the veterans that have come back from the Iraq-Afghanistan war. And we've set a mission that we want to accept the veterans and help them, unlike what happened to my generation when we came back from Vietnam.
Right, Mark, you were a helicopter pilot.
Yes,
right?
yes. And so my generation came back, and unfortunately, society never differentiated between the warrior and the war, and so we essentially hid in plain sight for 30 years. And I wanted to ensure, and this post wanted to ensure that for the new generation, the Iraq-Afghanistan vets, that they didn't have that type of reception. And the proof is in the pudding. You've got programs like this. They have Wounded Warrior programs. They've got a host of programs. I went to the Rotary district meeting last night in Andover. In addition, I got something I didn't expect, but the program was they raised money to give a service dog to a Marine veteran who was hurt and severely disabled. And I thought it was a horse because it was a Great Dane, but she had mobility issues and she relied on this. And again, she came out of a dark side that she had before because her mobility was significantly impaired and she felt like a half person. So these are the kind of programs that, and we push these kind of programs here. I mean, one of the key things we've got is you saw on the news today that Cameron is getting an additional $120,000.
Yeah.
Well, the American Legion was instrumental in convincing the city that 5 of the units of affordable apartments that going in there are going to be dedicated solely for veterans. This is probably the first veterans housing that we have had in Gloucester since right after the Korean War, when I think it was Poplar Park was at one time back then veterans housing, but there's no specific veterans housing, and we're glad to have that because if nothing else, there's going to be a transition from some veterans coming back who are thrust back in society. They're getting back on their feet. They now have a place to go because we want to keep the veterans here. We don't want to force them out to have to go someplace else to stay. So in a sense, I laughingly say this is not my parents' American Legion. We do a whole lot more both for our veterans and then for the community. I mean, we're starting an annual Thanksgiving holiday dinner in 2 weeks.
Right, it's coming.
I need to get ready for it. Which has been a tradition here for many years, and we've enhanced it. We now do 5 towns. We've expanded from Gloucester and Rockport to Manchester, Ipswich, and Essex, and the reason being is there's a demand. Our mission there is that we believe that no one should be alone on a holiday and should not have a hot meal on a holiday. So last year we averaged over the 3 holidays probably over 1,100 meals that we've served and delivered to these communities. It gets my veterans involved. It also gets the community involved because we've now got a host of young families that want to teach their kids the true meaning of holidays versus just we cook turkey, we open the toys, we have the Easter egg, and the kids love coming, especially when they go out and see these elderly who are by themselves often. They brighten the elderlies to see these little kids with a dinner, and the kids are impressed to see the reaction they get from the elderly. So it works out both ways, and so it's us giving back to the community and giving back to those who need. So we paid forward what we have been received from the city.
So Mark, how does this program work for the Thanksgiving, and just some details on when the meals go out, who helps and how people can get involved?
Well, shameless plug, there's an ad in the Gloucester Times today essentially explaining it. It's also going to be put on our website. The basic way it happens is I reach out to all the organizations, senior care, Catholic charities and whatever, through the 5 towns and say, this is what we're doing. It's a flyer. It's on Thanksgiving. If you want to have people that are your clients that need meals, send them in. If you have clients individually want to contact, there's a phone number, there's an email address on the flyer. We accept people who are seeking meals up to probably realistically Tuesday before Thanksgiving. It has the same flyer for volunteers. We have 2 sets of volunteers. We have the servers who will come here at 10 o'clock on Thursday, and we have the drivers who will come here at 10:30. Got to give a shout out to the Sea Cadets, because they've made it easy, because we've got this thing down to a science. What happens is the drivers come in, we assign the meals to them, they get a box of meals. The Sea Cadets will pick up the box of meals from them and walk them down those stairs, which would kill me after about 3 flights. The drivers get to go back to the cars, get the cars pull up the side, Sea Cadets put them in, and they're off. Normally the drivers are done by noontime. So they'll leave here. I think last year was a record. I think Adam can vouch for it. We started the drivers at 10:30. They were all out here at 11 with 450 meals. And they went out all over the place. And then they're done. And then we will open up the hall at 11:30 for those who need a meal, homeless or whatever, that can't go someplace else. And so they will come to the hall and we'll feed them here.
So you have a whole Thanksgiving dinner here.
Complete.
And you don't have to be a veteran. You can be.
No, anybody.
Anybody can come in.
We don't stand at the door and say name, rank, and serial number. If you want to come in, you want a meal, we'll be glad to give you a meal. For the homeless, we'll oftentimes have a meal here, and we'll give them a second meal to take. We've never turned anybody away. We've had last minute, a woman called one morning. See the proverbial, I burned the turkey, and I've got 7 people coming. Can you help us? 7 meals went out. Type of situation.
That's
The huge story, which was a couple years ago, I'm working Thanksgiving like Wednesday night, and I'm finalizing all who's going to get what. And I get this phone call. Do you deliver to Salem? Not really, but well, give me your address. There's people going down that way. They've got a volunteer, we'll deliver. And she gave me this, 115 East 57th Street. I'm going, what Salem are you in? Salem, Oregon. And so I said, I can't help you, but let me get back to you. So before Christmas, they said she was by herself. She was a widow in Salem, Oregon. Her brother was a former helicopter pilot who was retired in like Utah and Idaho. So I called her about the 15th of December. Would you like a meal? She said yes. So I worked with the Salem American Legion post. They delivered a meal. They delivered a gift. We sent flowers for Christmas. So I told this story to the volunteers on Thanksgiving, and they want to know what happened in Christmas. So I told them, we delivered the woman, which is crying. She was so happy. It's like, this is your American Legion. We're transcontinental. It was. I just picked up the phone, and a fellow post who wasn't really doing things went out of their way because this woman wanted a Christmas meal. So that's the spirit of the American Legion, that it's like no mission is too small, no mission is too impossible. We help someone.
Wow.
Well,
I know who to call when I'm in the mood for takeout now.
So Mark, you won you were awarded the Myra L. Herrick Outstanding Older American Award for all of this work that you've been doing on behalf of the Post. Thanksgiving, Christmas meals, at Easter. What was that like for you to receive that award?
Well, it even got worse. Last night, I found out a week ago, apparently the Gloucester Rotary had nominated me for the Paul Harris Fellows
That's
Award.
right. That's an impressive award.
So I went to the Andover Country Club last night, which is where I met this young Marine who got the service dog, and I thanked her for her service. And then I was awarded, unbeknownst to me, the Paul Harris Fellow as an unsung hero. And again, and I said the same thing I'll say now, I will accept it on behalf of all veterans who reached out to help other veterans. That's what the true meaning of a veteran is, that we will not turn down any other veteran. And so on behalf of that, I accept that award, and I don't deserve it. I didn't deserve the one I got from the seniors care, and I first got it and I said, congratulations, you're being awarded for being the outstanding elder person. I'm like, so I got to be old to get an award? Thank you very much.
It was just a matter of time,
Just
right?
a matter of time. So I'm getting worried because I've got these 2 awards, and normally I get these awards just before you die, and so I'm asking, is there something you guys want to tell me that I don't know about? But, I mean, again, it was an honor. I accepted it. I mean, I'm part of a group that does this here. I mean, I ask for volunteers from veterans in the Legion, I get them. I ask for volunteers from the community, I get a wrong one. I ask for donations, nobody says no. They're all willing to help, and that's what I like about the city. I mean, I've been in other cities where, oh, you're a veteran? Oh. It took a while, but Gloucester has really got it. They wholeheartedly support their veterans, they take care of their veterans, and we want to give back. So the holiday meals are one way that we can give back to the veterans and the senior. I mean, 1 year, 2 years ago, there was an elderly gentleman who was on the list and somehow we missed. So I got a call from the mayor saying, can you help? So I was down at Thanksgiving meal with my family. So my family said, let's go. We packed up two Thanksgiving meals. We went out to see this, my son and I went out to see him. He's 85 years old. He was a World War II veteran. He was in the Battle of the Bulge. He and his wife were there. They'd lost their only daughter like 9 months before. They had nothing, and they had like a TV dinner. That's what they're gonna have. And we said, nope. You have 2 meals, compliments to the Legion. Thank you very much for your service. I mean, and my son was with me, and he was this gentleman talking about the war and the Battle of the Bulge and things like that. And I'm not sure this gentleman ever shared that before with anybody, and clearly my son was impressed that he shared it with him, type of situation. But that's what we do. That's what this Post does, type of situation. Besides the meals, you know, we're involved with a fish box derby. We hit I saw you hit our car around the corner. We didn't win, by the way. But the veterans took it over because we want veterans involved in young families, and a lot of the fish box derby races we had this year were made by young veterans and their families.
Great. It's a great event.
You know,
It's a
Adam
great
had
event.
one, he didn't win either.
Had to point it out.
And there was about 6 military-produced vehicles. And it's a great way for young veterans to get involved with the families in an event that's fun. And we love taking it over, and we're the new generation to take it over. And you know, we've increased the number of riders, and it's a blast. The only headache in the last is how many hay bales there are for 180 feet, triple bales that you have to lift back up and put in the trailer
It's true.
afterwards.
That's right.
So
That's
other than
right.
that, it's fun. I got the blisters are healing.
You can still see them from September. Well, Mark Nestor, thank you so much for being on with us. And it's been a real pleasure for you to host us here at the American Legion Post 3. And maybe just a quick overview of who Captain Lester Wass was. This post is named after him.
Captain Lester S. Wass was a Gloucester boy. He went to Dartmouth University and graduated. In 1909, he joined the Marines. And I believe it was the 2nd Regiment. He went over to France, fought through France. And he's what I would call a true officer. A true officer is someone who leads by example, the last one to go to bed, last one to have food, because if he doesn't have it, that means somebody has, and if he doesn't have food, the cooks will make sure to get food. And he died tragically in the fight around Chateau Thierry, leading his men. He received a Silver Star, he received a Distinguished Service Cross, and he received the Navy Cross for his actions over a span of 5 days. And yes, he did what a true leader should do. He took care of his troops when he could, and he was leading the charge when he was tragically cut down. And that's a high standard that we have to emulate is Post. And I think especially for the last number of years, we've tried to live up to his reputation. You take care of the troops, you defend your country, you defend your citizens of your country. And that's what we've striven to do, which is why we do what we do, because this is a democracy, and this is what veterans are called upon to do, is to preserve the democracy against all our powers. We did it in war. None of us asked to go to war. None of us volunteered to go to war, but we did it. And we came back, and a lot of us did the proverbial, beat swords into plowshares and came back and got integrated within the community. Some veterans better than others, some communities better than others. And, we have him, and we've had a host of people since then, and I've been blessed that I've had a number of commanders before me that were cut from the same cloth, which is why during our centennial celebration, Labor Day, we awarded 7 citations to prior commanders of me who have helped keep the reputation of this post alive and in the forefront of the citizens of Gloucester, that they need to know that we're here from them and we are here for our veterans.
Mark Nestor, thank you for that.
Thank
your
you.
inspiring work
Thank you.
here
Thank
at
you for
the
your
Post.
service.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. That was Mark Nestor, the commander here.
We do have an audience today, folks.
Yes, we do have a live audience here with us. Thank you, Mark. Next up,
Oh, beautiful.
some friends of yours.
Yes.
Pauline Bresnahan, she's the owner of Pauline's Gifts, and also V.
Hi, V.
Cipriani. We'll let you explain some of the work that you're doing.
Yeah. Well, so V, let's get right off the
Yeah.
bat. Now,
Oh, boy.
your service background, please.
Yes. So I am a female veteran. I served in the United States Army for 5 years, right after 9/11. I am a Purple Heart recipient. I've done a ton of volunteer work in honor of our veterans. I know the needs that I needed when I moved here, and I now work with our community and try to provide some of those needs for our local veterans as well.
Right. And I wondered, what was your call to the military to begin with? Were you spurred by 9/11 or family history? Or?
No, I had already signed up when 9/11 happened. It was just the icing on the cake when it happened. It was more motivation for me to keep going with it. I grew up in a small town, Camden, New Jersey. I don't know if anybody knows what Camden is or where it is, but it is known as probably the #1 worst city in America.
Rough and tumble, yeah.
It is a rough town. I had amazing parents who showed me a lot of discipline. They showed me how to be respectful, but there was really nothing much in Camden for me and the person that I wanted to be. And I just went on a whim one day and decided I'm going to join the military and see where that takes me. And here I am.
Yeah,
you
pretty
know,
far, right?
I've never regretted it.
Now we're here, you mean, right? You got all the way here.
Now we're here.
Yeah.
I never regret it. I made the best friends, lifelong friends, and even though I don't talk to them every single day, we are still best friends. You know, I will still do anything for any of them, and I know they will do anything for me. So
Nicely
that's
said.
how I
V.
joined the military.
And Pauline Bresnahan, a longtime advocate for veterans,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're involved in a lot of causes.
When you get to meet people like V. Cipriani, how can you not want to be involved?
Right.
Yeah.
And so right off the top, we should talk about one cause that you've both worked on together and we've helped along with as well. And this is now the collection boxes, right? So we want to
Yeah,
help you
so-
describe
So
this.
yeah,
so I don't get in
explain this
trouble.
program.
Yeah.
So the Women to Women collection drive,
Yeah, I can know
women-owned
this.
businesses on the Essex Coastal Byway. We all tried to think up projects that we would like to work on together. I, of course, love working with the Veterans Office in Gloucester, And every year, I'd always donated items for women in the military serving overseas, and I felt that we could do more. More than 20% of all of the military, each of the different forces now are women. So we took up a collection drive. First time was last Labor Day through Columbus Day, and then the more popular one for me was the month of May in honor of moms. So we collected more than 500 pounds of items, and we work with Operation Troop Support out of Danvers.
Right.
And they ship 150 cases a week overseas. So it was wonderful, and women came in that felt so gratified. They just
They were
loved,
great. They were just
grateful
so
to do it.
grateful. Women in the military get forgotten about. I joined the military. I met my husband in the military. He's also a veteran. And when people come up to us as a couple, they go straight to him and say thank you for your service, but they forget about the women and what the women needs are. And when you send shipments overseas, they usually cater to men. They forget about women products and they forget about women's needs in the military. So it's like, we want to feel good about ourselves too. Yes, I'm wearing the same uniform as you. Yes, I will get down and dirty and I will be as rough as you are, just the same. But, I want
Well,
You
women
wanna
have
get your
other
hair did
needs.
sometimes.
Right, I need to wash
Yeah.
my hair.
Right. So what are the kinds of products that, are these donations that people
Yes,
can give?
women came in with bags of items, everything from personal women hygiene products to hair, we need elastics and shampoos. Vi did a video with me that people just loved, and beautiful bras and underwear were donated, and
It's
personal,
needed.
yeah.
It's
Right.
needed.
And it was
We need
just
it.
wonderful. Women came in and said, I was going to send money, but I thought, get off your butt and get out there
Yeah.
and go and do something for these women that are. And Mother's Day, we thought there are so many moms serving in our military. And what better way to honor moms than to send them
Send them a care
products?
package. Send them
So
a
we will
Mother's
do
Day
it
gift.
again in May, for the
Yeah.
month of May. We, thanks to Corey and the Bridge and hopefully 1623, now that they know about it, will also share about our drive. We had it in 10 women's stores. You could drop off the products, and we were thrilled with the outcome. It
It's
was
just
a
so
great
nice
watching.
to be able to go shopping and have that consideration, because we do that for our loved ones or
Yeah.
our friends, and we're so thoughtful when we're picking something out, and to have that in mind, just someone that you're selecting
Women
things
were
for.
so excited to
It's a
go
nice
and do
thing.
it.
Exciting. I had brought the idea over to my coworkers, and one girl said, what about a diary or some sort of notepad or something? Absolutely, because sometimes we can't share what we're going through to a male, So sometimes we just want to write it down. And she brought me a whole box full of just plain notepads or diaries, and it just makes us feel good.
That's great.
Nothing
That's amazing.
else.
And so, and now there's another cause that we've all worked on closely, and I've learned more about it through
Yes.
you. This is the Welcome Home
The
Initiative.
Welcome
Do you want to
Home
touch upon that a
Initiative.
little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of years ago, we were all approached, what needs do veterans need when they move back into our community? And the idea was brought up, how about more information? When we come back, we don't know what to do. All we know is military life. This is what time you need to be here. This is what you need to do. This is what uniform you need to be wearing. It's so structured in the
Regimented.
military that when you come home, you don't know what to do. You don't know what places to go, what people to hang out with. So we developed this Welcome Home Initiative. And it basically we came up with a gift bag, and it's full of all sorts of information, who to talk to, where the Cape Ann Veteran Services office is. We kind of introduce all of ourselves. So if you don't feel comfortable with one person, you can also speak with this person. This is where the VA clinic is located, and we hold a luncheon where we invite a lot of these people over. So if, you don't feel comfortable talking to them today, you've made the connection, you've already talked to, the main doctor at the VA clinic. let me go there on my own time and let me go chit chat with them and see what comes about with them. If you don't, you made a friendly face and you made a good relationship with Adam, you can always you now know where his office is. You can go check in with him. You can talk to him whenever you need to. I am always around. Pauline is amazing. She designed our logo. She is amazing. This is the most amazing person I've ever met in my life. But
Mutual admiration here in so many ways.
Makes it easy.
The welcome home is just there for that, to welcome you. It doesn't matter what era you served in, whether you are just now completing your 20 year or 25 years of your service or 2 years of service. We are here to help you in any need that you may have.
Really great programs. Thank you so much. The Welcome Home Initiative.
We have to touch on one more, but we read us if we didn't talk about the Boulevard flags too. And I know
yes, absolutely.
it's a solemn week, especially with the passing of Ringo's wife.
Yeah.
And I actually have a little story on him coming out shortly as well, and just how that came about and your involvement there too. how important
Yeah,
this
about
is.
5 years ago, when I read in the paper that the Boulevard flags were down to 70 flags, I contacted Ringo, who has always put them up since 9/11, and said, can I help? I have a store that I sell flags, and so he said, whatever you can do, Paul. Well, 5 years later, we are a 5-year wait list right now to have a flag flown on the boulevard. I'm just overwhelmed with the generosity of the community and people from all over the country that just come here that love that display. I tell them that I don't know when it will go up when you donate one. I'm happy to send them a photo once I put a name on the flag now, and people love it, and it's been a great success. I'm honored to have taken part in helping Ringo because I love seeing them, and I think it's about the second most photographed scene in the city of Gloucester right
Really?
now.
Well,
amazing to look at.
it's great. It's great. I mean, it's a sort of an institution now where everyone's waiting for the flags to go up.
I know, it's such I just get goosebumps, I'm a big flag lover. I have to say, when I opened my store in 99, I brought in so many American flags. I thought, that's gonna sell like crazy, and I'd sell one a year. And I was so disappointed, and September 11th happened. And the last flag I sold before September 11th was for an American citizen that was living in France. And September 11th happened, and that week, in 2 days, I sold out of flags that I'd had for 2 years. And ever since then, I have my goal is
You are
to
the flag
have,
lady.
I
The
just,
flag
If
lady.
you're in by your shop on West Ave.
That's right.
Yeah.
Pauline's
Red,
Gifts
white,
is on
and blue,
133.
I'm just thrilled to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Well, thank you both for being
Oh, yeah.
here.
And V,
Pauline
thanks for your
Bresnahan.
service.
Yeah, V.
you.
Ciporini. Thank you. It was
you.
lovely to meet
Thank you.
Thank you for all
Nice
your
to
great work
meet
on behalf
you.
of women
Thank you.
and active duty.
We'll see you soon, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay, Pauline Bresnahan, V. Ciporini,
Just
that was great.
Just great work.
The show marches on.
I know,
This is
and
a special
you know,
one
it's
today.
so touching and moving that so many folks are involved and doing such great work around Cape Ann. Our next guests are Stan Feener and Ed Kanoshka. Ed Kaznocha.
It's a
I'm
tough
sorry.
one.
I'm all-
Nice, Dan. That's easy. I can deal with that.
It's a simple Polish name.
Ed, Stan, thanks for being on. We're going to talk about your work with the Veterans Writers Workshop, and that's with the Cape Ann Veterans Services and also the Gloucester Writers Center. So it's in conjunction, and Dorothy Nelson couldn't be here with us today, but she is the facilitator for the Veterans Writers Workshop. Tell us about your experience with writing and sharing your stories. Ed, you want to start?
Oh, sure. I was a little reluctant to go down. In fact, when I went in, I said to Dorothy, if you're going to read your own work, then I'm out of here. Dorothy has proven to me and everyone else to be a wonderful facilitator. She's just very good. The workshop is not only veterans, but spouses of veterans, mothers, daughters, sisters, aunts, uncles of veterans. So it's a diverse group. There's me, a Vietnam vet, an Air Force, Stan's a Marine. We had one woman whose husband was in Pearl Harbor, and she wrote about her trials with him not understanding his problems because he never voiced it. Another Korean vet that was there wrote about his time with his brother in Korea during the Korean War. So it's a very open group, and it really is. It's really fun. And Dorothy is just like, you can't say enough about how nice she is. And I just want to say one thing about Adam Kukuru. Adam is our best VO we've ever had in the city of Gloucester. He's just wonderful. And it's him that had opened the place up for Dorothy to come and make it possible. Then we had, when we launched our anthology, we had a launching at the Gloucester House, and Dorothy said, we might get about 50 people.
It was packed.
It was jammed.
I couldn't believe it.
It was jammed, and it was, they had to open up extra rooms.
We
It
did,
was
yeah.
just wonderful.
It was an amazing
Yeah,
night.
I
It was really remarkable.
I was the MC, I guess,
Yeah.
for that. So it's been great. Plus you get to meet great people like Stan.
Stan, tell me about your experience with writing and what that has meant to you.
I started at the recommendation of my family to join this group, and I had no clear goal, but I decided I would write things down about my life that my children wouldn't have known. So I've written diverse things about going from South Station on the train down to Paris Island. Lots of funny things happened there. I've written about Paris Island. I've written poems. I've written, it's just a privilege to be part of this class, and I can't say enough about Adam Kukuru, but I also have to compliment highly our mentor. I call her my muse. Dorothy is so skilled and so in love with the creativity process, and she brings us all manner of things to read and digest and discuss, and it facilitates our confidence to take words, then put them on a piece of paper and have it make sense.
Well, there's such a power in storytelling, right? I mean, even sharing your stories with each other, which I'm sure is part of the group.
Right.
But when you start writing it down, there's a power. Do you feel that sense of release when you're getting it out on the page?
For me, there's a few stories that I wanted to get out.
Yeah.
I wasn't a combat vet. I was a fuel specialist. I put fuel into F-4s that went off to bomb Vietnam. I ended up serving Air Force One in Homestead. But there was, during the secret bombing in Cambodia, my involvement, what I was doing on the tarmac, and my thoughts about that. There was coming home, as many Vietnam vets experienced. When I hit San Francisco, got to the airport, the San Francisco airport, at about 5 in the morning, we were greeted by the maintenance man. There was about 6 of us. And he says, you guys can use the showers and the change it, because you don't want to fly in uniform. And he was right, unfortunately. And for me, it took me over 40 years to go back to the VA after I got my initial rating. And that was because of a veterans fair that came here, and I talked to people from the VA, and my feeling was, when did you get nice? Because it was a rough time to go through. So in my career, I started out right down the street here as what's called a DVOP, Disabled Veterans Outreach Program, and I helped fellow disabled vets, Vietnam vets, enter in, and it was that wall. Why should I bother? What's all they're going to do to me, And it was that kind of attitude from the veteran, not feeling safe enough to even go to the VA. Later, as an economist for the state, a friend of mine who was also a fellow economist, we always spent our time explaining statistics to veteran employment people, to help people who help veterans find employment, explain the statistics, help them understand the jobs data. And I spent most of my time doing that, emphasizing that. Come to the writer's course and getting my stories out, I stopped thinking so much about them. And that was what was good about it.
Yeah, so as a release. Stan, what was your experience as you started really working on some of these things? And
Well, I was fascinated because I was a Marine, of course, but that was 60 years ago. And when you look through the filter of 6 decades of living a life after the Marine Corps, sometimes you have to work really hard to extract those memories. And I find that challenging, and it's kind of exciting, little things, big things. They say that, once you're a Marine, you know that one. But it's true. So I try to honor my Marine traditions when I write. I don't belittle people or make fun of them. But it is what it is. I just love to create things, the process of creation. Sometimes I don't even know what I've created until I read it again.
that's just such a great part
One of the
of
things
the
that
writer's
happens
process.
in the writers group is that as we read our stories to the group, the critique that comes back, we may have left out something that we don't want to talk about, or we don't mention, or kind of forgot, didn't think it was important or something. And the group brings that out to put that down. And so it's a very good group. We have we have one fellow who was a paratrooper and a medic in Vietnam, and he's suffering from AO exposure, and he's writing his stories down. He's a very
It's great.
and it's interesting to hear the other stories, how similar they are to us, but how different they are.
Yeah, every story is unique and powerful.
Yeah, it's
And
important to that person.
It
Whether
really is.
whether anybody reads it other than that, it's important that it came out.
And the group is open to veterans who want
All
to join,
veterans.
all
Yeah,
veterans.
all veterans and wives, spouses.
Family members.
Family members, daughters, sons.
Yeah, I love that.
Mothers, it's
Yeah.
open to.
And you can also get information on that if you're interested on that for a family member through the Cape Ann Veterans Services and Adam Kukru, right? And I just wanted to also just mention the anthology that was published by the Gloucester Writers Center. It's called The Inner Voice in the Outer World, Writings by Veterans and Their Families, and it's from the Cape Ann Veterans Writers Workshop. So you can find this, I think, maybe
Through the Writers Center.
through the Gloucester Writers Center, 126 East Main Street, or gloucesterwriters.org. Ed and Stan, thank you so much for being on. It's been a real pleasure to hear your stories.
Yes, thank you for
Thanks for
having
your
us.
time. Thank you for
Thank
your
you, Ed.
service.
Oh,
Have
something
a
I'm
great
still getting
holiday.
used to.
I'd
That's
like
right.
to see you down at the group.
I'll be there. You want me writing again? Careful what you wish for.
That's right, Stan, lovely. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for your time.
Wonderful to have you on. So we've got some programs that are happening around Cape Ann,
Yeah.
and we thought we'd just go through that. So for all of our viewers who want to take part in either an event or a parade, we're just going to go through some of these. So
Right.
in Gloucester, the Veterans Day ceremonies begin at 9 a.m. It starts at Gloucester High School Auditorium, followed by a parade to right here, the Gloucester American Legion Post 3. And there will be a ceremony also here in honor of Armistice Day with a luncheon to follow.
Right, they always do the wreath laying ceremony out here.
Yes, it's very meaningful. In Rockport,
Well, I want to say too that
yeah.
luncheon is free to the public as well.
Good.
On Monday.
Great, thanks for that. In Rockport, the Veterans Day ceremony begins at 10 a.m. It starts at the Rockport American Legion Post 117, and that's located at 32 Beach Street in Rockport, and that's across from Back Beach.
Right, and also we want to mention that the Rockport Police Department Honor Guard will be participating in the ceremonies at Endicott College as well.
Oh, that's great. That's great. In Manchester, the ceremony begins at 11 a.m. at the Manchester American Legion Post 113, and that's located at 14 Church Street in Manchester.
And then at 5:30 in Manchester, the Manchester Women's Club is hosting a spaghetti dinner fundraiser, and that is at the Manchester Community Center at 40 Beach Street.
Great. In Essex, the ceremony begins at 6 p.m. and that will be at the Essex Town Hall. That's 30 Martin Street in Essex.
Yeah, so there's a ceremony and a multimedia presentation going on that will feature author Jim Kurtz of Ipswich. He wrote The Green Box. It's about his father, who was a World War II pilot of a B-24 Liberator that crashed in the Austrian Alps. So an amazing story there.
Right, right. We've heard some amazing stories today. Also, just so many thanks to all of our guests and the folks who were just willing to come on and talk with us. It's just, it's inspiring. We've had just a lot of inspiring.
Yeah, amazing
so
show.
Thank our guests.
Oh my God, let's do it. Let's start.
Okay,
Ready?
yeah.
Well, we'll finish. Well, Adam Kukra, of course, from Cape Ann Veteran Services. Congressman Seth Moulton. That was a great interview, Maureen.
Thanks.
Mark Nestor from the American Legion right here in Gloucester. Pauline Bresnahan of Pauline's Gifts. V. Chipperini, decorated war veteran herself. Then we just met with Stan Feener and Ed Kaznocha. Yeah, I got it right. Did I miss anybody? That may
I don't
be
think
it?
so.
Okay.
I think that's it. And well, many thanks to Share the Music. We're going to go out with a song from them shortly, and so it's been wonderful to have them here. Many thanks to our crew, our director Becky Tober, our technical director Mac Macon, floor director Lisa Smith, production assistant Alana Horn, cameras David Lufkin. And also many thanks to our executive director, Eric Archer. Corey, it's always great to host this program with you.
Yeah, it's been awesome again, Maureen. I love this show, and you can see us once again. Now we're here. We'll be at the Open Door Food Pantry on Emerson Ave on Friday, November 22nd. That's our next show. So we're going to sashay off the stage right now and leave you with more beautiful music from Share the Music, and you can actually see them this Sunday right here at 2 p.m. at the American Legion in Gloucester for a free show, and then they'll be at St. Paul's Lutheran Church at 1123 Washington Street in Gloucester on Monday at 2 p.m. So
thanks
you,
so
Maureen.
much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Corey. Thanks for tuning in. We're happy to bring you now. We're here. Come to see us at one of our live shows. It's great to have a live audience. Take care.
Yeah, and we want to thank all of the service people, active and
you.
from years past. So thank you for your
Yes.
service, and have a great holiday weekend, everyone.
Yes, happy Veterans Day.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam.